Okay, how are you all doing today? I am not doing too badly. Again, I know it's been a couple times I've said this now, but apologise for the gap between now and last video. I've been very busy filing up some deadlines, getting that all sorted. So hopefully now we can actually get going with videos again. Today I'm going to be looking at MFL, right? So I've been playing for the last month or so. We're doing okay in the league. We are third at the moment. We had a disappointing loss last night. Pretty close. Between me and fourth. I'm hoping that we shouldn't have lost to this team here. I don't know what happened, but it is what it is. Anyway, what I'm going to look at today is everybody's always talking about like their squad and who's playing, and obviously we can go into that, but that's not so much what I'm interested in. What I love about this game is how new it is and how little information is out there on it. So one of the main things about the game that people love is the idea of potential and how potential is hidden. We know what potential is. Let me pull up the information here. This has been my favourite website, the MFL white paper. I've spent my time going through it, trawling through the air tables, and just having a look here. So if we go to player development, no, player management. Okay, so if we look here, there's some information about the gap, which is obviously the difference between what a player is generated at, their overall and their max potential. So for a 24 to 25-year-old, this is typically in the region of about 4, let's say, give or take. Obviously, it's within this bracket here, the upper end, so about 4, let's say. Obviously, the higher chances up here are very slim. 16 plus is 2%. But we're only given this for a 24 to 25-year-old. The only information we've been given so far is that we know that it's higher for younger players, but by how much? Now, I've got a slight inkling as to what I think that number could be. I was doing some investigation last night, running some numbers, and I have a rough idea of where I think that could be. I'm not going to get into that now just because I want some more data on it first before I say where it could be. The other thing that's interesting is the idea of the prime age. So prime age is essentially where, say you've got a player who's 50 rated, the age of which they will reach 80% of their potential. So if they've got 10 potential, the age of which they would reach on average 58 rating. And you can see obviously this can have different trajectories. Some players can shoot up, say if they have an earlier prime age for some reason, they'll fly early on. Those with a later prime age on average will take a little bit later, but obviously this can be different as shown by this diagram here for player to player. Now I've probably just thrown a lot of information at you there, so I'm going to try and break it down a little bit easier. So what I'm really interested in is the idea of 16-year-olds and their potential. Because obviously a 16-year-old career is probably going to be not quite twice as long as a 24-year-old player's career. Because so every player will have a retirement age somewhere between 32 and 42. Now we don't know how this is distributed at the moment because we don't have the data. I would suspect that either if it's a normal distribution, it would give an idea that it is 37, the average retirement. If it's flat, so they have a 10% chance to retire at every single age, the average is still going to be 37, as that's the midpoint. The question, however, is if it's weighted either side of that, then that will obviously throw off the average career length. But like I said, at the moment we don't have that information, so the best guess that I can have is that it is 37. What we'd want to look at here, however, is so a 24-year-old player has a 13-year career. A 16-year-old player will have a 21-year career. So that 8-year difference, and is that worth the extreme increase in price that people are paying? My suggestion is definitely not. And some of the reasons for this is, so we've had a look at some of the numbers, very basic, just on what we've got at the moment. So percentage of players by age, this is where they have a ID number of greater than 70,000. You can see the average player comes out at 22, okay? Very few players, about 3%, are 17 or below. So a very minor number of players. This has obviously been increased in the last update, which is why I said it's 70,000 to try and reflect this. There may be some players that have sneaked in here that shouldn't do. Obviously, I don't believe that this 29-year-old should be here. And I would guess that it's going to follow a similar path like this, where 21 and 23 should be equal. Obviously, this one is slightly higher. Again, there could just be a couple players that have sneaked through. I haven't gone through all 20,000 players or whoever fit into this range. And obviously, the more and more data we get with the new players coming in, the end of the season, the pack drop, we can fill this out more and more. So Typically players are going to come out at 22. The supply for these players is so tiny that it's going to drive up the price as it is, because even if a few people want, 17, 16, 17-year-old, it's going to just inflate the price massively. The other thing that I have found more interesting is the average rating of players based on age. So at first I thought it would be about 58, right? Because I think that's what they're aiming for. Obviously, again, a lot of these players haven't had progression at the moment, so it's harder to see. Based on the players that are 70,000 and above, this is the average rating for each age. Now, I know it's just a lot of numbers here. So if we take 22, 23, 57.6, 57.6, it increases slightly up until about here. Obviously, these two figures are so small. If we go back to the graph, I've closed it down now, but it's about 3% or so, probably even less actually, for 27, 28, 29, or let's say about 3%. So these numbers are very, very minor and don't really have enough data points to take them seriously. So if we look at 26, 25, 24, 57.7, 57.8, 57.8, 58 for rounding purposes to make it easier to understand. 16 again is so minor, 54.6, there could be a reason why this is higher. I haven't investigated it. But obviously 17, 54, let's take them two numbers for example. So a 54 rated 17-year-old and a 58 rated 26-year-old. So for that 17-year-old to be the same ability as a 26, he has to go up 4 points to begin with, obviously. So that's 4 potential points off of you when you work out the difference between, say, let's say you've got a 17-year-old that you open. So you open your kickoff pack. You pack a 25-year-old and you pack a 17-year-old. Your 25-year-old is 58 and your 17-year-old is 54. So sticking to the percentages that we've got. On average, if this is an average pack, your 24 or your 25, 26-year-old is going to have a average potential of 62. So for your 17-year-old to be worth the money that you're going to pay for them, they would have to reach that. The 17-year-old would have to reach that rating of 58 by 24 and then have an extra 4 potential on top on average. So they're going to have at least an 8 potential average. So a 17-year-old is going to have at least an 8 potential average, full stop, or the players are just never on average going to be as good as players that come out packs at 24, 25. So this number's going to be higher than that. Realistically, how much higher is it going to be? Let's say, for example, it's 12, okay? And on average, a 17-year-old is going to grow, that is 54 rated, is going to grow to be a 66 rated player. We know the 24, 25-year-old is going to grow to be 62. That's obviously a 4 average point higher. The question now lies, okay, how much is that going to cost you? Because the key thing that I think at the moment is, if we look at the price of 17-year-olds on the market, and obviously this is very, very basic, rough maths that I've just essentially pulled the air table, gone for it, 52 to 56 to give us a range. Because there isn't going to be that many. Look, there's very, very few players on the market. The cheapest one is this goalkeeper here, Christopher Quinn, 68101. Now if you go to MFL player info, this gives you, the way it calculates it is it takes 3 most recent players' values to have sold similar age, similar position, similar rating. Not similar position, similar age, similar rating is how it calculates off the last 2. So this value can change quite a lot. The last 3, there we go, sorry. Similar age, rating, and position. So one cell can quickly change this figure, but it's a rough estimate. $15, let's say, for a 53 rated goalkeeper. Now if we're going to say his average is going to be, his potential is going to be 63 to 65. How much is the 24 to 26-year-old goalkeeper going to cost me? That is that rating. Okay, so looking at this goalkeeper here, he's 26. He's currently listed for $7. Obviously, the last goalkeeper we saw was listed for $20. We said the value was 15, just for this sake. On average, that goalkeeper is only going to reach 63 rating if the potential is 10, which it possibly is going to be maybe a couple points higher. I wouldn't think it'd be too much lower than that. It can't be lower than 8, or that just wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. So how does this work? You then obviously have that 10-year or that 9-year period, 9-season period for that goalkeeper between 53 and 63. Because for him to be as good as this goalkeeper, he's got to reach that rating. There's a chance that he doesn't, but we're not factoring that in. We're saying he's the average goalkeeper and he will hit 63. His prime age, if we go back to this graph here, his prime age is going to be about 26. So he's only going to reach 80% of his rating by this age. So by that age, he may not even be as good as this goalkeeper. The other thing to factor in is, okay, let's say he's, not good enough to play in any of your teams. He's 53 rated, he may play in Spark. But let's say you have to put him into a development centre. You've got to pay MFL then for the 4 seasons he's in there. You can't use him as a goalkeeper. So now he comes out at 21, so you get 5 years. Are you valuing that 5 years extra that you get with him at double the price? Probably not. Obviously, if you can use him in Spark, great. But if you're playing in Spark and you're wanting a goalkeeper, you could buy let's say there's a 58 to 60, okay? You could spend $4 on a 24-year-old goalkeeper that's had no progression whatsoever. So he's meant to hit a 62. So for $4, I could buy a goalkeeper that is predicted to reach the same rating as the one we just looked at for 15. And I get 3 more seasons if you put him in the development centre. 3 more seasons of use out of the extra $11 that I'm paying. I get the hype around having a young player. The cost just does not make sense at the moment. Obviously, when we get more and more data on potential, then we're going to understand it. But at the moment, there isn't that information. And my inkling is you're best to just buy a 26-year-old player that is already at that potential. Because you also then have to factor in, you've got to get them 100% XP. You've got to get them as much XP as they can get if you're not putting them in the development centre. If you do put them in the development centre, you're obviously paying that MFL, but then you put them in the development centre again for another 4 years, you're tying them up for 8 years, just for him to come out at the same rating or potentially lower rating than where he should be at by that point. There is obviously that chance that, you pull this Wonderkid who's so young, and that's great, but then there's also the chance for the player, like this guy comes out of pack, okay, he's not had any growth yet, but how much has he actually played so far? Is it that he just, he'll get that 4 increase in overall, which I think is possible. He's played quite a lot of games. He could just be someone that develops later than everyone else. You don't know this information, and people are judging, thinking, oh, he's 17, he must have 15, 20 potential, when in reality he's probably got 8 to 12 potential, and overpaying on that. So, for example, for myself, I've got a player here. If I go to my players, my club isn't that big at the moment. It is going to get bigger as I do have an addiction to this game. But McDermott, okay, Nicholas McDermott, he's had 1 growth. He came out at 27. Yeah. How much did I pay for him? I think I probably overpaid at the time. Paid $6 for him. He is the kind of player that you want, or I would now go out and look for, because, okay, if he plays to 37, I've got another 9 seasons out of him. And he is already a 60 overall. I think the thing that people often misjudge in their head is, okay, yes, your player might have potential of, 10, 15, but they're still a bad player before they get to that point. They're still 10 ratings lower, or 8 ratings, 6 ratings lower until they get to that point. You have to work out the point of which, okay, they get to the rating where they're as good as this player. Obviously, you can factor in maybe, you don't mind if the player's 5 ratings lower and you give him game time. But again, if this guy was 55 rated, I probably wouldn't want to play him. Like, I've got a 56 rated left back that I wasn't happy with. I bought in a new one. It's where your ratings lie in terms of what you're happy with. But in terms of age, this is me when I very first started. This guy here, Letelier, I wanted to see what he could do in the development centre. He's done nothing so far. He came out as a 21-year-old. He's done absolutely nothing. Neither has this guy, a 46 rated centre-back. Done nothing. Petrov. So Petrov is an interesting one because he has a market value of $11, right? A 47 rated centre-back is worth $11. He's already gone up to potential. Okay, he is playing, admittedly, but is he someone that just has an earlier prime age, therefore grows quicker, or is his prime age normal? He's just had really, really good growth these first 2 levels, and that's why. Is he ever, when he then gets to the point of which I'm able to use him, because he's 47 rated, he'll have to go up 11 ratings for him to be any use to me in my club. So that would mean his potential would have to be... Well, 58 is my lowest centre-back, and they're the ones that I'm looking to upgrade at the moment. If I was to sell him for $11, let's say, okay, I lose the longevity of having that centre-back. What are we getting in terms of a centre-back? Sort of from low to high. Sorry, high to low. Okay, this guy here is 24. I could buy a 63 rated 24-year-old, so 7 years older, who is 16 ratings higher. Is he really, really going to do 16 ratings? He might be, but probably not. So based on that information alone, I'm going to take Petrov. Let's have a look at the marketplace. What are 18-year-old centre-backs going for? Age 18. Position centre-back. Overall of... We'll go 49. Yeah, 48 for this guy. And he's listed at $10. Yeah, I'm going to list my guy, Petrov. As much as I like him and think, oh, he could be great. $9.50? Like... So obviously I'm going to do more and more. Every time we get more and more data on these players, we're going to rinse and repeat it, bring it in, add it to the learning model that we've built, try and get it to develop more and more data. We're trying to build one for valuations of players as well. It's obviously really difficult at the moment and will take a lot of time to figure out, okay, what is each player worth, and obviously without knowing the engine. But there's so many numbers in this game, I think there's so much potential for something like this. I'm also very wary of not giving out too much information, because too much information can make the game not that interesting. But yeah, this is where I am at the moment. If you have any questions on anything, come into my Discord, ask. We have an MFL channel where we'll chat about this kind of stuff. If there's anything you want me to look up, find out, just let me know, because I really, really do find this fascinating, finding out this information. But yeah, I will see you all next time, and have fun.